Hello there everyone! Welcome back to Void Wolf Studios, where we go into part 3 of our Stormcast Eternals. And now we're going to be looking at the stuff that's a bit more unusual. Every single Storm host has access to these different units, but I'm going to go over some of them in this video and some of them in the next, because, well, Stormcast have a crap ton of units, if you'll pardon my language. They definitely have one of the most broad range of miniatures out there for Age of Sigmar, and you can build your armies in all kinds of different ways because of it. So last time we covered all the bare bones, your Liberators, your Judicators, your Secutors. Now we're going to go into, well, like last time, we're going to go into a bit more meat of the army. The stuff that you can put into the army to make it have a bit more character and a bit more unity. And I'll tell you a little bit of lore history about each unit as we go. And first up, we are going to start with the Paladin Conclave. The Paladins are your Liberators or Secutors who have, well, proven themselves and shown that they are very good at killing things, so they were promoted to the Paladin Conclave. These guys and gals are really good at using the power of Sigmar in their strikes, aka when they hit something, a burst of lightning happens, part of Sigmar's power that he bestows to each of the Stormcast Eternals. There are 3 different kinds of Paladin. There is the Decimator, who is armed typically with a 2-handed axe, and is fantastic at clearing lots and lots of units around it. You have the Protectors, awesome spear staff wielding guys who are able to create a special force field. Essentially, they can protect other units nearby by spinning these things really fast, and it creates a magical barrier. So yeah, that's pretty neat. And then you have the Retributors. These guys are your 2-handed hammer wielding paladins, and they just pummel things, just happily and merrily. Each one of these units, as you can tell, is slightly different. The Decimators are amazing at killing hordes of units because they have a wonderful special rule that means that every miniature within 2 inches of their weapon gives them an extra attack. So when you look at their Warscroll, they have attacks nada, and the special rule means that for every enemy model within 2 inches, they get that as an attack. So if you've got 3 models within range, you have 3 attacks. If this dude is completely surrounded, then, well, they have like potentially 5-6 attacks apiece. And yeah, they're pretty hardy. They're pretty good at staying still and not being knocked down. Armed in some of the best Sigmarite armor that they can get their hands on, these are the units that you plunge into the heaviest object you find and just beat it over the head until it stops moving. To be fair, the Retributors are the guys you want to beat people over the head with, simply because their maces do an incredible amount of burst damage. What I mean by this is that they have an ability called Blast to Ashes, which means that on the hit roll of a 6, they inflict 2 mortal wounds instead of their basic 2 damage. And mortal wounds are way more difficult to deal with, and the leader of the group gets a wonderful thing called a Star Soul Mace that, well, basically means that you're screwed. Every time it attacks you, it gets to roll a dice. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, the target takes d3. On a 6, it takes d3 plus 1 mortal wounds. So that's potentially a lot of mortal wounds you're going to have to deal with, and that's going to suck for you, as the massive hammers make truly painful examples out of things. But if you want to kill hordes, then you use Decimators, and if you want to protect your units, then you use the Protectors. They're very handy for stopping incoming missile fire. They are very useful against most units. Don't get me wrong, they are not weak by any stretch. In fact, they have a wonderful rule which is perfect for killing monsters. The Glaives have a rule called Death Strike. Whilst the Star Soul Mace does exactly what I previously mentioned for the Retributors, the Death Strike rule means that every Stormstrike Glaive that targets a monster and hits it on a 6 does d6 damage instead of 1. This means that the Stormstrike Glaive is actually really, really good at killing big things. And with a 3-inch range, you're pretty safe in getting these guys all into combat quite easily. And like I said, they have an ability called Storm Shield, which means they can deflect arrows that are incoming towards them. And in addition to that, any friendly unit within 6 inches, they get to receive this benefit of cover too. The way it works is, anyone who tries to shoot at this unit, or a unit within 6 inches of it, must subtract 1 to hit rolls for all missile weapons. That's no bad trade-off. Yes, they do not do as much damage as their other counterparts with the axes and hammers, but they make up for that for being very tactically flexible and being very useful to help your units get into combat better. They don't have as many attacks as the other two I've just mentioned, but they make up for this by having their ability to protect other units, and that's a pretty handy trait. The main way you want to use these things is you want to basically target them at what they're best at. Decimators for hordes, Retributors for pummeling elite units, and the Protectors for keeping your other units alive so they can get into battle. Relatively straightforward, really. And the models are very pretty. Like, Stormcast isn't my favourite army, just because I know this is a bit strange to say, considering how many Space Marine armies I have, but I guess I find gold a little bit, well, dull after a while. I know there are lots of different ways you can paint them, but yeah, I just find that after a while you get sick of gold, you know? We now have a unit that, in many ways, exemplifies the wrathful fury of Sigmar. The Prosecutors. These angelic-looking Sigmar warriors of the Stormcast Eternals are essentially there for hit-and-run tactics and for harassing the enemy. What they do is, they use their beautiful, beautiful wings to fly around the battlefield, and they summon... they manifest lightning bolts in the shapes of hammers, javelins, and axes, and they can manifest these weapons at any time they want, and they, typically speaking, can hurl them at the enemy, causing all kinds of unpleasantness because it's being thrown with the force of a lightning bolt. And yeah, it's going to suck one way or the other, no matter what gets hit. They come in 3 flavours. You can have a hammer in each hand, and then the dude leading them can take either a grand axe or a grand blade, or a really big hammer called a grand hammer, and essentially it's just a bigger, better weapon for more choppy in close combat. This unit is fantastic, not only at throwing weapons at the enemy, but also on the charge. If you have this unit with mostly the hammers in, then having paired hammers allows you to re-roll your failed hits. Or you can give them Sigmarite shields that allows them to re-roll save rolls of 1. So you have a lot of different ways you can kit them out. Oh yeah, sorry, I got one other way you can equip these things. You could instead have Prosecutors with what are known as Stormcall Javelins. The Javelin is more of a ranged unit compared to the Prosecutors with hammers, simply as, well, the Javelins just serve better at long range. What they do is, instead of hitting on 4s, which the hammers do, they hit on 3s. They do slightly less damage, but they are more consistent, so you know, it's a trade-off. And in close combat, whilst they are no slouch, they're not quite as good as their hammer-wielding brothers. But the Stormcall Javelin has a lovely little ability called Stormcall Javelin. Yeah, there you go. Simple name. Whenever a Prosecutor throws the Javelin at a unit that's over 9 inches away, the Javelin calls down a bolt of lightning, and the attack does 2 damage instead of 1. So bearing in mind that the Stormcall Javelin has a range of 18 inches, what it's saying is, if you get within half range, you do more damage, and hit more consistently. Oh yes, and you can still take shields. So you are not defenseless in any way, and you're also still pretty good on the fightiness. Personally, just use this to harass the flanks and just make sure that you stay far enough away out of combat. Yeah, this unit is pretty fun. As part of the Angelos Chamber, these units appear in all Storm hosts, as they are often used as scouts. They're great for harassing enemy lines, they're destroying supply lines, and they are, no joke, they're kind of his wrath made manifest, especially the ones with celestial hammers. That unit can, good gracious gravy, that is quite a lot of attacks, quite quickly and in your face. And yeah, I love their wings. Their wings are gorgeous. Like, don't ask me how they work. It's just the power of a lightning god made manifest. Just don't ask how they fly. There's no jetpack that we can see. It's all magic. It's all magic at the end of the day, people. Unless you're a Cardon Overlord, in which case it's not magic, it's technology, you fool. We're just using a material that makes absolutely no sense and, well, can be all kinds of different things at once. So yeah, completely different. Now we put our boots firmly back on the ground, and we are going to be looking at the Evocators. The Corpulescent Conclave, or the Sacrosanct Chambers, are formed of mages who all are about casting spells. whilst they are great in close combat, they excel at casting magical abilities and protective spells onto their friends. These are the more magical arm of the Sigmarite army, and they deserve that title very much. The souls within the suits of armour, the souls that were resurrected through Sigmar's magic and created with their new bodies in this armour, let's be accurate here, were all wizards in one way or another in life. You know, wizards, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, whatever you want to call them, that's what they used to be. And Sigmar has taught them how to channel his power into even more effective lightning bolts. These evocators are sorcerer warriors, who are more than capable of dishing it up in combat as they are at chucking magic at range. Armed with Tempest Blades and Storm Staves, these units are, well, just great. I mean, each one of these evocators with a Tempest Blade and Storm Stave has 4 attacks. That's already pretty damn good. They hit on 3s, wound on 3s, with -1 rend and 1 damage. That's pretty good. In addition to this, their ability, called Celestial Lightning Arc, means they get to re-roll failed save rolls of 1 for attacks against them if they're missile weapons. So you know, that makes them a little bit more hardy. And on top of all this, once they resolve their attacks, they get to target an enemy within 3 inches, roll 2 dice, and for every 4+, that unit takes a mortal wound. What that means is, the evocators summon bands of celestial lightning that jumps around their weapons and hits random people around them. And as they are wizards, you can use them to not only attempt to dispel spells, but they can also cast spells of their own. This spell being the Empower spell. Empower means that any friendly Redeemer or Sacrosanct unit within 12 inches gets to reroll failed wounds and attacks. Meaning, if you're going to have an army with Redeemers and a Sacrosanct theme around it, they're going to be pretty damn fighty. These warrior mages are no slouch at all. You can relatively comfortably leave them fighting, well, mobs of infantry, but I wouldn't necessarily put them against something with a lot of wounds, as if they get hit by, say, a monster, they only have 3 wounds apiece, which is great, but there's not enough of them to kill a monster outright in, say, a turn or 2, which is what you need. Even with the Grand Stave, which your leader can wield, it's only going to do a little extra damage. I would suggest you point these things at horde units or at units designed to slow you down, and just use that wonderful little lightning effect they have to just murder their way through things. And you know, they're wizards, so use them to unbind spells, which is incredibly handy. And it does not end there. Your evocators can be mounted. Yes, you heard me right, they can be mounted. These guys and gals can ride on a mighty beast called a Drucker Lion, a celestial creature that comes from the realm of heaven along with the Star Drakes and Draconiths, a really strange amalgamation of lizard and lion. These creatures are known to inhabit the mountains of the realm of Azurheim, and for funsies they like to scratch the mineral deposits up there, and because of the magical energy inside such mineral deposits, they get charged up by lightning. And yeah, they're able to channel this through their claws and, well, just lightning claws, because, you know, it's not bad enough this thing's pounced on you and is crushing your chest. You're also going to get electrocuted whilst this happens. These are not your average kitty cats. These are, yeah, huge and, well, a bit spiky, rocky, and crystal-like almost. They will mess you up something fierce. In addition to all the previous abilities I've just mentioned, you gain, well, your really mean kitty cat, which provides you with a little extra protection and a couple more wounds, as well having a greater damage output, meaning these things can run around quickly, be wherever you need them to be, and you have a better chance now of dealing with those monsters you couldn't before. 2 fantastic abilities, one being a roar that subtracts braveries from everything around it, so long as there's 3 or more of these kitty cats around, and what is known as the Thunderous Pounce. As these things, when they hit you, they blast you with, well, heavenly energy, or azurite energy as it's called. In tabletop, this basically means you get to reroll your charge, and the claws on the turn that you've charged do D3 damage instead of 1. If you want your evocators to run around the battlefield really fast, then these kitty cats are the way to go. Now onto something much, much smaller, but I would argue as cute, if not cuter, than the Drucker Lions. You have the Griff Charger, or Griff Hound. This much smaller version of what suspiciously looks like a griffin is one of the many creatures that inhabits Azurheim. They are renowned for being untamable. They only stick around to people they trust or they feel they have a special bond with of sorts. Typically speaking, these Griff Chargers will be in packs, which can be directed by Stormcast Eternals as they see a kind of kinship in them. Maybe it's the magical energy of lightning running through the Stormcast Eternals, or perhaps the great Stardrake Draconith, who basically kind of said everything who was in the realm of heaven, listen to these guys are okay, help them out as much as you can kind of syndrome. And the Griff Chargers, I guess, for whatever reason, have decided to do such. They're considered intelligence-wise to not be much smarter than your average dog, but there is certainly something going on there, because these things are, well, as I said, they're untamable according to what we know of them so far. But they're willing to take orders, so there must be some level of tamability, or I don't know. Whatever the case, they're cute little critters, and they should really be used kind of like that. You can either have them in groups, in which case they're known as packs. You send them against the enemy, you eat lots of smaller units, and they're basically there to just mow down and get rid of chaff. They're not going to live very long, they don't have much armour at all, but they do have a very decent amount of attacks, and for the points you pay, it's pretty good. More often than not, you actually have Gryph-hounds as companions to some of your HQ choices. And again, a Gryph-hound is handy, it's a couple extra attacks, a little bit more wounds, and it gives you something else to help intercede your character with whatever's coming at you. So, yeah, Gryph-hounds are really cute. They, I don't actually think there is a bigger version of this yet. Like, there's no Griffin in the realms of Azurheim. The Empire has its own Griffin, but it has wings, and this one doesn't. So, probably a different creature, or some kind of subset creature. Now, whilst you can't use the Griff Hound in the next unit we're going to discuss, if you buy a certain box of them, you get one for free. You can just have as your own little dude, or, stick him in a unit with some other Gryph-hounds. The Castigators. These fantastic crossbows are just ouch. So, just to make it completely clear for you, these crystallized bomb projectiles contain the breath of a Dracoth. You remember those, I'm pretty sure I mentioned them in a previous video. They're the mostly dragon creatures who run around on all fours. Stormcast Eternals tend to ride them as mounts, and they breathe lightning. So, yeah, that's going to sting a bit. And the weapon profile sums it up quite nicely. You tend to get these guys in groups of 3, but you can have up to 18 in a group. And the Thunderhead Great Bow has an 18-inch range, not too bad, hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, with rend of -1 and 1 damage. But here's the fun thing. The two abilities it has, Burst of Celestial Energy and Castigator Etheric Channeling. So, the Burst of Celestial Energy means that when this Great Bow hits target and it releases all that energy inside the canister, it does this. If the unmodified hit roll of this attack targets a demon or nighthaunt on the roll of a 6, when you hit it, it does D3 instead of 1 wound. Yeah, so these things are great against anything ethereal or anything that just wants to try and get past you. So if you want to stop the nighthaunt, this is one of the best ways to do it, with a nice big fat group of these shooting into your enemy. The Castigator Etheric Channeling, however, is even more interesting. At the start of your shooting phase, you say if you want to increase the accuracy or power of the Great Bows. If you choose accuracy, you reroll hit rolls of 1. If you choose power, the Great Bows have a -2 rend. which isn't really going to matter much to Nighthaunt or to demons, but it'll be great against things that, thicker armour, say, like orcs or dwarves or, anything else that might be trying to get through your lines and rely on its toughness. These guys will be useless in close combat. They literally only have the butts of their crossbows to hit you over the head with, but they're really solid. They're a really good shooting unit. 18 inches, so they're not gonna outrange things, but still very solid shooting unit. And that ability to do extra damage to Nighthaunt is invaluable, because Nighthaunt swarm over you. That's one of the ways that they can just bring you down so fast. It's just a horde of ghosts that don't care about rend. And the ability to do extra wounds to them, and the ability to do extra hits on them is just fantastic. Anywho, that is the first part of the other stuff video, as I'm liking to call these things. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, let me know how I'm doing. And thank you everyone for your support. I'm really appreciating it. I am so happy on how much the channel's growing and how much people seem to enjoy my content. I will keep it up to the best of my ability. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Take care everyone.